Well, coming up on show 384, Kia's E-Nero gets a delivery update. Specifically for Norway, I've managed to get hold of a letter to customers, and I'll bring that to you. Audi plans a plug-in hybrid Blitz, and questions of the week get answered. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, in fact, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily, Sunday the 10th of February. It's Martyn Lee here, and I've been through every EV story that I can find today. Picked out the ones that I think you need to know about a bit late today, because it was a late night last night, a couple of busy things to do yesterday. During the day yesterday, though, I was at an EV meetup organised by Craig of the Renault Zoe Owners Club here in the UK. About 50 EV owners turned up for a couple of hours, had some food, some drinks, and it was great to see a car park full of EVs and just people having a good old chat. But that informs our brand new question of the week at the end of this show. But keep listening for that. We were talking about buying and selling used cars yesterday. You know where I'm going with this. Thanks to myev.com. If you're in the US, you can use that as the world's first marketplace all about buying and selling EVs. myev.com is the best place to go to. It really simplifies things as well if you're looking to get yourself in an EV sometime in 2019. So last week I was talking about the Kia E-Nero and the delivery situation here in the UK, which I called out the particular publication who printed this because they said that UK Kia E-Nero current reservation holders would have to wait until the end of 2019 to get their cars, and I don't see how that's possible when the cars are being built at the moment. Right-hand drive versions. I don't understand it. Anyway, maybe they're right. This is an update from Norway, though. And this is an email that I got late at night from Phil, who says he's a Norwegian reservation holder. But get this. If there's only 900 cars coming to the UK, in Norway, he is reservation holder 5,605. Kia had previously said, and Bjørn Nyland on his videos confirmed this, that Norway was initially allocated 2,000 E-Neros during 2019, but that may change. They stopped the reservation program when it got to 6,000 reservation holders that back in November, and refunded the deposits of about 7,800 NOK, just under that. And then he got some communication from Kia in Norway. It said that they're going to deliver, they have delivered, the first 356 cars. No, I thought it was January. It's February. They will deliver the first 356 E-Neros by the 23rd of February. And Phil's saying, well, actually, reservation number 5605. He's got a bit of a wait. And then he forwarded me the email that was sent to him as well. And it was really interesting to have a look at, actually. I'll summarise it. And it's really interesting that Kia's communication with reservation holders is really good at this stage. It's something that a criticism that has been fired at Tesla over the years, that you put down your deposit for a Model 3 and then you hear nothing. And it's not like you want weekly updates, but more than radio silence is what some reservation holders would prefer. The essence of this note, then, is that the first customers on the reservation list have now signed for their cars, and delivery will start. The email said delivery starts end of January, February. So that's why I thought the E-Neros were in drivers' hands already. A good allocation of E-Nero to kick off the year then in Norway, and that's not surprising because Norway is such a hot market for EVs. On January the 29th, a ship turned up with 83 cars on board. Then yesterday, another 24 turned up, and then on February the 23rd, another 250 look like they are set to arrive. In those shipments will be cars of a certain exterior colour. Well, there's 9 colours in total for the E-Nero, and 2 different interior options. So if you put your deposit down, your dealer will contact you and explain that, well, here's the colours and colour combos that we've got. Do you want one? If yes, you'll get delivery assigned. If not, you can choose a different colour and maybe wait for the next shipment. So that's an update from Norway. If you've ordered an E-Nero, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got one already, I'd love to hear from you. Let's move on to Audi. And Audi announced the upcoming Geneva Motor Show in March is going to be the place where they unveil some new plug-in hybrid models, plural. Don't know how many. At least 2 then. Martin Sander is the operations, marketing and sales division of Audi AG. said the expansion into plugins is going to be substantial. That was the word he chose. Substantial, says Mark Kane at InsideEVs.com. Audi's pure electric models, well, the Audi e-tron is already in production. Has anyone got one yet? The Audi e-tron Sportback is going to debut this year. The Audi e-tron GT is a concept at the moment, but they say could be in production by late next year. There's an Audi A3-sized EV concept due to be unveiled, and the Audi SUV based on the MEB platform, actually. That's late 2020, perhaps into 2021. And 5 more SUVs in the pipeline as well for Audi. They really are going big on batteries. So that's the question with the Audi e-tron. Has anybody got one? I did get one particular communication from one of the podcast listeners to say his neighbour who works for VW does have one. I won't say his name, just because I haven't checked that I can say his name. But he says that he looks out of his window in his neighbour's driveway is an Audi e-tron, but he is quite senior in VW. Anyone else got one? I'd love to know, because there's this story that's going around over the weekend, and this was in Green Car Reports, that the e-tron, which was scheduled to go on sale in Europe by now, has had its rollout delayed by another month, according to Automotive News Europe. Back in October, Audi told the German newspaper Bild am Sonntag it was working on improvements in the interests of the buyer. Well, sources then told Bild that it had to do with the battery software. Some more coding was needed to get approval, according to Eric at Green Car Reports. Well, the newspaper had reported a bottleneck in battery supplies, as the battery supplier, that's LG Chem, was seeking a price hike of 10% for the car's battery. Now, the battery in the Audi e-tron is 95 kilowatt hour. And again, I'm no journalist. I just don't believe this story. How can a car be in production and then the battery supplier goes, oh, yeah, by the way, the battery's another 10%. Is that right? Think of it like a tip. Maybe that's the way the car industry works and I'm enormously naive, but it would amaze me if that's true. If their cars are being built and LG are able to go back to VW, Audi, and go, yeah, price has gone up. Maybe they can. Or maybe the story's wrong. I don't know. Citing sources close to Audi and its suppliers, it anticipated the software and battery pricing issues could delay the car for months. Audi spokesman Mark Dunker said in an emailed statement that the launch schedule in the USA remains in the second quarter of 2019, as we've been targeting from the beginning, he said. So nothing's changed in the US rollout of that. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to read the article. I just don't believe it. Moving on to making charging easier. Now look, the gold standard of charging is you pull up to any charger anywhere. You'll probably need to know the speed of the charger. That's the only geekiness that people... But then again, look, people pull up to the petrol pump and they need to know whether it's unleaded or diesel or, 95 or 98 octane. So after you know the speed of the charger, you really shouldn't care who owns it, as long as the energy's green, and how you're getting billed. Well, Hubject, a previous guest on a Saturday special of this podcast, Hubject and Greenlots are deploying their new technology in North America. Customers with plug-and-charge enabled cars no longer need to worry about an app or an RFID card. The achievement is the result of a partnership between Hubject and Greenlots, a US-based provider of the charging and energy management software and solutions. It's wholly owned by Shell New Energies. The key phrase in there is plug-and-charge is enabled. Plug-and-charge is available on the enabled vehicles. Which are those exactly? Which EVs can we buy with plug-and-charge enabled? I don't know of any, but if you do, let me know. You can email the show about any of these stories, by the way. My email is hello@evnewsdaily.com. That's the gold standard, surely. Pull up to a charger, plug it in, and then at the end of the month, someone, somewhere, somehow bills you. You shouldn't be worrying about that kind of stuff. Finally, actually, no, I think we've got time for a couple more stories, and then we'll get into your answers of the week, answers to question of the week. Seth at Electrek brings us the next story, because the US fast charging network, EVgo, has again decided to change up the charging prices. The DC fast charging network that operates in 34 states charges users at the moment on 2 tiers. There's pay-as-you-go and there's membership. Well, EVgo charges based on time rather than electricity transfer, so that incentivizes people to have very fast cars. It'd be no good for me with a slow charging Renault Zoe. Be very good for a Porsche Taycan that charges at 350 kilowatts rather. So if you're being charged on time, then there's every incentive to own an EV that charges quickly and to get off that charger as soon as you're done. Well, this week's pricing update affects the membership prices of EVgo. It ups the cost significantly, says Seth, almost to non-member prices. EVgo, however, then lowers the membership fee to $8. That's from, $10 a month, but it now includes fewer free minutes. So the membership price goes down, but you only get 29 free charging minutes, not 52 in New York, for instance. And then also the time that you charge for has got more expensive. Like, these things are going to be fluid as EVs roll out and business models get changed. And finally, Tesla is making its Model 3 in Europe, presence in Europe known, with the latest display of the Model 3 in one of the world's busiest airports for international passenger traffic, reports Teslarati today. In an appeal to potential customers in the European region, Tesla has put on display in Lounge 1 of Schiphol Airport. Now, Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam is not only an international airport, it's a big hub. So often London is a big hub as well, but even sometimes we have to fly. It's a short, really short, few minutes flight from London to Amsterdam, and then Amsterdam's a big hub to fly to loads of places in the world. A photo posted on the Model 3 in the airport shows the car covered from view. It's got one of those lovely silk cloths that covers. If you've ever bought a Tesla, you know the cover gets whipped off at super speed to reveal your car. They got one of those all over it. However, occasionally they'll take the cover off. The cover's removed and people get to have a look at the Model 3, then they cover it up again. Now, I love that. It builds excitement, it builds interest. People then start tweeting about it, going, "Oh, I just walked past it and it was uncovered." Plenty of people here in Europe have never seen one up close, and so that's a great move by Tesla to get people more enthused and engaged with the new Model 3, and to get a sense of the size as well. I've said many times on this podcast, it's the perfect size for European roads. One of the things I love about flying to the US and getting a hire car is just sometimes how wide the roads are, how big the cars are. It just makes sense to have a bigger car. Here in Europe, the roads, everything can be a little bit smaller, and a Model 3 is nothing against the S and the X, gorgeous cars, I think is the ultimate Tesla to own here in Europe. Okie doke, let's answer your question of the week then. Thank you very much to everyone who emailed me and got onto YouTube and things like that. And we'll kick off with David, who was answering the question of the week about incentives. What incentives, apart from the ones currently on offer, would you like automakers and dealers to provide? Well, this was a long old answer from David Partington, so I won't give you the whole thing. He says, but I often never get round to sending you an email, so he has this week, and I want to make sure I find time to read his out. When it comes to incentives, manufacturers and dealers should make more of free charging when you purchase the vehicle. We all know Tesla's been doing it for years, Audi moving into the market as well, Porsche are doing a bit too. People who can't afford a Tesla are put off buying an EV because of charging anxiety. Well, there's a phrase I've never heard before. Charging anxiety. People do the bulk of their charging at home, so it doesn't really exist, but people think they're going to be worried about charging. Those who are EV curious listening to the podcast, by the way, let me reassure you, you will do nearly all of your charging at home overnight. Get yourself on a cheap rate electricity tariff and you just won't worry about it. You won't be going anywhere to charge because you'll just be using the miles that you've got. Yesterday's road trip that I did up to London was 200 miles, 200 mile round trip for me. So I ended up doing 4 stops in the end, because a couple of them were comfort breaks and a couple of them were enforced, and I spent £2.40, that's about $3.50, to do a 200 mile round trip for £2.40. That's absolutely mad, isn't it? Okay, so the first one was a free charge that I did yesterday. Stopped off at a supermarket called Sainsbury's here in the UK. 22 kilowatt post, nice and quick. It's the fastest my car can take anyway, so it doesn't matter. That was free. Did some ecotricity charging on the motorway. Popped into the network is called Charge Your Car, but I can use it with my Polar Plus card. And then on the way home, I popped into Sainsbury's again as well to get some supplies and give me a little boost to get home. £2.40 for a 200 mile round trip. There's no charging anxiety there. Thank you so much, David Partington, for yours. Hello to John, who, if you follow him on Twitter, is Beardy McBeardface. John says, I think the UK government should commit harder to the EV shift. They should offer a £7,500 discount if you purchase a new EV and give you a £2,500 discount if you buy a used one, at least until EVs are 50% of the UK car stock. Hello to Raj Badwell. I don't think we need incentives. He says we need cheaper EVs. I bought a used Nissan Leaf 30 kilowatt hour, and after all the extra costs, $3,500 more for the car and $380 for the home charger. It'll take him 2 years to break even. That said, interest-free loans are a good incentive, yes. So, depending on where you're listening around the world, if you're in Scotland, you'll know this, but in Scotland, they have interest-free loans to buy EVs. Last time I checked, they did. If that's changed, let me know. It would mean that you could buy a £30,000 car, spend £360 a month on it, and not get charged any interest. So someone's obviously getting paid some interest somewhere if the government is borrowing money and lending it to you interest free. But I like the idea. Hello to Andrew Murphy. I think the one thing that gets everyone in electric cars is the price, says Andrew. Hello to Bill. Oh, I've sorted these in alphabetical order, haven't I, in my folder in Windows. All right, let's do it in alphabetical order. Bill, done Andrew, on to the B's. Bill said push incentives encourage dealers and sales forces to promote the product. In the case of EVs, perhaps a reward system, like if you sell 20 I-Paces in half a year, you get a free I-Pace. There's an idea. Pull. So that was push incentives. Pull incentives, he says, bring customers to the door. They offer a reward for answering the call to action. We hear terms like ask for it by name or ask your local dealer for details. I like it. I like the idea of push and pull. Hello to Craig, onto the C's. Craig Rogers says incentives. Reduce the tax barriers for business fleets and business drivers. Interest-free loans. And with EVs being expensive, the luxury charges should be abolished. Yeah, here in the UK, we don't pay any road tax or vehicle excise duty. Road tax abolished years ago, if I give it its proper name. So if you drive an EV, but if yours is over £40,000, then you do actually pay quite heavily for it as well. Yeah, abolish that. Hello to Jack Oakley, says, hello to EV enthusiasts, he says. Financial incentives are okay, but I think in the USA, dealers should show full support by installing unrestricted level 2 chargers for all EVs. I'm not looking for a free charge, he says. I'm happy to pay for a charge, but there's so many car dealers around that all of them should have chargers on their lots, and they should be available to everyone. In my area of northeast Pennsylvania, there are at least 20 car dealers within a 20-mile radius of where he lives. 2 of them have chargers. The BMW dealer has 2 level 2 chargers in a clearly marked section, which are available for free. Mitsubishi has 1 level 2 charger, and it's always iced, or people just park their cars in it, or staff or whatever, or used cars are sitting around, they park it in front of the charger. Several other dealers, he says, have chargers, but they are inside the service department, not available for general use. I love that. It's a good idea. They've got a lot of land, just 1 or 2 spaces anyone can pull in. I mean, there's loads of car dealers within a 5-minute journey of where I'm living. It's a good point. And yet I know, because I live close to the Renault dealer, I know that I could pull in, but when I've been in before, there's always just cars parked, not charging. They just use it as a car parking space. And then it's a faff. And then, I've never done it, but I've thought, I've got to walk into the reception and say, hiya, Renault dealer, can I charge my Renault Zoe here? And of course they'll go, oh yeah, of course. They'll hunt around for the key. Then they'll find somebody to move the car that's in its space. And I just I haven't got the energy to deal with that. And it's like, it shouldn't be this hard. Of course, if you're desperate for a charge, goes without saying, you absolutely would. But they just don't seem to care. Anyway, moving on to Jerry. Jerry Allison says it would be an incentive if an EV manufacturer or dealership would offer free charging. Maybe 3 or 6 months, get you going. And then you can sort yourself out after that introductory period. Hello to Carl. Carl with the K says the incentive I'd like to see is EV makers suck up their pride and join the Tesla supercharging network. Yeah, wouldn't we all, eh? I don't think they've got the technology to make it work. Tesla in the past have said, not Elon, but someone who works in Europe on their charging networks has said, was it a statement? Was it a tweet I saw that the other car manufacturers are not technologically advanced enough to cope with what Tesla do with the superchargers, and therefore they'd love to open them up, but they've said to all of them, you need to up your game before you can use ours because they can't communicate with them. It seems like a reasonable thing to say. Hello to Mark Bullock here in the States. I'd like to see dealers to be required to service their EVs at any authorised dealer, not just those that sell EVs. I have a used Nissan Leaf, says Mark, and my local dealers are not EV capable, so I have to drive 60 miles to get to a dealer that can even work on the car. That's a good point, Mark. Hey, by the way, in a couple of weeks' time, I've got a Saturday special coming from it's an interview with someone who is a family business servicing cars, 3 generations actually, and now the garage have opened up a pure EV section. Isn't that interesting? So we're going to have a chat to him. I've done the interview already about what needs servicing on an EV. Tell us about the business choice to do that. Put people's minds at rest. What do we need to think about? What needs servicing and what doesn't? What about when expensive things go, like the battery or the motor? All of that is coming up in a couple of weeks. Another Mark right now. I didn't get Mark's surname on this one. It was an email he sent. I got his email address, but I'm not reading that out. Mark says, incentives promoted by car dealers and automakers will mostly be monetary in one way or another, either reducing the purchase price, which they're unlikely to do, or give incentives like free charging. That's interesting. It gives you the feeling of freedom to go wherever you want. The same applies to some innovative incentives that regulators have granted EV drivers in different countries, like using bus lanes in Norway, free parking. Yeah, that's in Norway as well, and a higher speed limit, which was that Austria or Switzerland, a higher speed limit for EVs compared to combustion cars, because the faster ICE cars go, more pollution, more noise, EVs aren't affected, so EVs can fly past everyone else. Yeah, that's a way to get people into an EV. And it's a brilliant idea, by the way. Hello to Martyn Young. I believe that incentives should be viewed more comprehensively as, get this, he's done some thinking on this, 3 legs of a stool. Manufacturers, their incentives should address the main concerns of buyers, like battery life, big, long guarantees. The government is his second stool leg, if you like. Government incentives should be focused on financial support to the middle and lower income individuals, assist them in purchasing an EV. One problem with the current tax rebate in the US, $7,500, many people object to their tax dollars being used to subsidise the purchase of luxury cars by wealthy individuals. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. And finally, utilities, he says, actually poised to benefit from the transition to EVs. Well, I can't disagree with you there. That's unless some oil companies end up buying electricity companies. Really need to step up and do more than they currently are, especially in states where there's no ZEV mandate. These incentives could be in the form of rebates to cover the cost of installing a level 2 charger. Hello to Mia. Now, Mia Oppelstrup. I hope I said your name correctly. As far as EV incentives on the dealership side, I'd love to see a dealership become something akin to an airport club lounge, like the United lounges. You get some free Wi-Fi, nice atmosphere, bit of music playing, some snacks, maybe even a daycare centre adjacent. Of course, plenty of types of charging. Call them electric lounges. I think there's a business model there, isn't there? The electric lounge. I love that. Everyone loves going to an airport, especially, when we went on our honeymoon and we treated ourselves and we were in the first class lounge, which was the first time for us. And it's lovely. It was a nice place to be. There was some, hot drinks on offer and other things. Like in that one, you could get your hair done or have a hot shave and all those kind of things. And I like that. The electric lounge. Someone's registering a website as I speak. Thank you so much for all that you do. It's a great show. No, Mia, thank you for your support. And thank you for supporting me on Patreon. I really couldn't do it without the Patreon supporters. Hello to Paul. Paul Young, not the 80s pop star, has emailed me to say assistance on home chargers. Most Canadian owners would be able to charge almost totally at home. Chargers could be installed and ready when the new car gets delivered. I think the need for charging equipment scares off some people. I totally agree with you. Absolutely. People are a little bit, unless they're confused by, what do I need? And they're relying on their local electrician to be honest and upfront with them. You're right. The charging infrastructure is something that we can all help with if you know someone who's getting an EV to put people's minds at rest. Hello to Rich. Hello, Rich Fowler. Regarding incentives, I'd love to, while I would never say no to a discount or a rebate, what I really want is for a really good warranty and free charging at dealerships for the life of the car. While we're at it, give me free loaner cars as a benefit and don't be stingy about it. If you're confident in the build quality of your cars, show with actions, not words. I like that. He says that by really good warranty, he wants Kia levels of warranty. So 7-9 years of warranty gives me a good reason to roll the dice on the latest and greatest tech. Great idea, Rich. Hey, look, it's one of the reasons that I'm happy to have a battery lease. When I meet people and I say that I bought the car really cheap because there's also a £50 lease on the battery, and you can see the cogs whirring inside their head. They're like, but what do you mean you don't own all of the car? So I don't own all of the car. I've paid for the main bit, but the battery I pay a lease on, and they can't understand it. And I go, well, it means it always belongs to Renault. So if I get in it one morning and the battery doesn't work, Renault can put a new one in. The most expensive bit of the car that can go wrong is not my problem. And okay, it is £600 a year in lease fees. I've done my analysis on that, and it's just totally worth it because I sleep better at night. Some people just want to look out their window and see what's in their driveway and know they're owning all of it, and hey, that's their choice. Hello to Ron. Ron Kerensky says, what incentives should dealers and manufacturers offer? I think continental charging for a year. Interesting. He said, in one swoop, it incentivizes buyers to address the two major mindset gaps of potential buyers. Higher sales price, but lower operating costs. Yep. And can I do long distance trips across the continent in an EV? A commercial should include a regular person saying, fuel for this year is free and it's cheaper than gas forever. Yeah, I like that. The first 6 months, the first 3, 6, 12 months of owning an EV to say, you know what, you don't pay for fuel for a year. That's such a good idea. Right, two more. Sebastian Pulowski on the subject of incentives says the thing that dealers and automakers that could do that to help people is to provide free charging for the charging companies in your area. So do a deal with EVgo, with ChargePoint, with Volta, Electrify America, and give you that choice of free charging in your local area, or even when you're on your travels. All dealers should install. He also says all dealers should have those chargers at their locations free to use. Sebastian, by the way, Sebastian is a listener in Chicago. He says, P.S. we own a Tesla Model 3, and Tesla was the only car company that informed us about all of our different charging options and then gave us 6 months of free supercharging. Hey, if you're in Chicago, by the way, you know what's coming next. Check out electricmotoring.net. Paul and the gang at electricmotoring.net support this podcast. And if you're in the Chicago area and he's got S, X, and 3 on his books, you can do it through Churro. And if you want to contact him, check out electricmotoring.net. If you're flying through the area, you want to treat yourself, a little birthday present for your partner or something. Nice idea. Finally, Tom, who I managed to get his name spectacularly incorrect last time I read it out because brain wasn't working. Tom Raftery, who I managed to call him Rafferty. Brilliant. Tom Raftery says two quick things in terms of question of the week. He says, I work for a big software vendor, and our company has an aim of reducing costs and emissions. I think a lot of big companies do want to reduce their emissions. They do mean well by it. One of the perks of being with the company is that you qualify for a car and it gets a fuel card. I don't drive much, so I was spending around €70 a month, he says, on filling up his car. Other employees would easily go over €100 a month. So at least €1,200 a year. What employees can change their car for them after 3 different years. So he said, so after at least over €3,500 of fuel has been spent, what if the company offered an incentive to the employees to reduce that amount off purchasing an EV, say like £2,500 off the purchase price, but then your company that you work for then gives you maybe some other incentives, some charging incentives. So everyone's making a saving, right? They're not spending as much money on their company fuel cards, but also you're saving money because of electricity. That's brilliant. Absolutely. Why wouldn't? Because then a company would spend less on their fuel card bill. I think it's great. I had more. I've got to stop. Thank you so much to everyone who's answered question of the week this week. It's my favourite bit of the whole week. I love it because it's your bit of the show. Hey, let's set you a brand new question of the week. Keep your comments coming in on email, on YouTube and Facebook. And here it is. Are you a member or part of an EV club or association, online or physically? Because after so long of not being on the Facebook group of the EV that I own, I thought, what am I, I just never got round to clicking join on Facebook. And then it's great. And so you get to have a chat to other like-minded people. Are you part of an EV club or association, either online or physically? Do you think there's more reason for electric car owners to be part of a community compared to gas cars? Maybe because they're still quite new and you need to ask questions, or not? Or do you think EVs and gas cars are absolutely the same and we shouldn't give special treatment to EVs? What do you think? Let me know. There are 178 patrons of the podcast. Thank you very much to all of those who do support. Patreon.com/EV News Daily. There's loads of old shows if you are interested in something we've covered before online. If you want to Download any of them. They're free. Get new ones if you subscribe. Just hit that that subscribe button to download them first and free and automatically. The thing that makes a huge difference, by the way, in like the search rankings and stuff, is how many reviews podcasts get. So if you get a chance, please share this with at least one person who you think would get something out of an EV or knowing more about EVs. Little review online, little share, that would just mean the world to me. In the meantime, come and say hi on the socials by searching EV News Daily. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll catch you tomorrow.